All righty. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Sports to Suits Live. I am your host, Amanda Banks, and I am excited to have you join in. We've got a very, very, very special guest today that I'm super excited to have tons of awesome conversations with because we are all going to learn a whole heck of a lot. But as you're jumping in, please drop us a comment and let us know where you're listening in from. We have people literally from all over the world that tune into this show. So it's always exciting for me to see where people are tuning in. But without further ado, I am super excited to welcome Charlie to the show. Charlie, thank you so much for joining.
Hi, how are you? Thank you, Amanda, for the invitation. I feel very grateful about this time with you.
And we've already got people popping in. We've got Brett saying greetings, Amanda and Jose from Las Vegas. And as people pop in, we'll keep welcoming everybody. But as people are doing so, why don't you, Charlie, tell people a little bit about yourself so people can start getting to know you?
So thank you very much. I'm Charlie Sarmiento. My legal name is Jose Carlos, but since I was very young, everybody called me Charlie. I think from Charlie Brown. So I'm Charlie. I was born and raised in Guatemala City, a small country in Central America, and also I'm Italian from Brescia, up in the north. And I have been in the sports arena since I was very, very young. I started as a baseball player, and I played for the Guatemala youth national team for 8 years, 7 to 8 years as a shortstop. And also I did some moto enduro. I love motorsports. That's like
That's totally different than baseball.
yeah. So yeah, I have those two passions. So I need like the adrenaline side and also the strategic side of the baseball. So I did that when I was very young. Then when I turned 14 years, my dad passed away in a motorcycle accident. So I decided to quit baseball, to quit motorsports, and I started to become a soccer player. So I was drafted for the U17 Guatemala soccer national team, central forward, and and that uh, after that, I was always trying to become a soccer player, and I did a couple tryouts here in the United States. But I received partial scholarships from two universities, Jacksonville University and UCF. I was 17 years old, but I didn't have the rest of the money to fund my tuition, so I couldn't make it, and I decided to stay in Guatemala, keep playing soccer in an amateur level in second division national league in Guatemala, and start studying my career, my professional career. So that's more or less my background when I was very young. So I enter into the academic time frame. So I study a BA with minor in finance in a university in Guatemala, and then I got an MBA with a minor in marketing in a business school in Latin America. So that was more or less my background, and I started to perform in the corporate level. So I decided to keep that track, and so I was a corporate executive for more than like 14 years. I'm 40 years old, even though that I feel like I'm 20 right now or 18, but I'm 40. So after being an executive, and when I was being a top executive, I started to do ultra trail runner as an ultra trail runner and competing globally in the ultra trail world tour. So I have been an ultra trail runner for the last 7 years. I started at 32, 33 years old, and I do races from 50 miles to 100 miles. I had this blessing to represent Guatemala in a world championship trade world championship in Spain, and I got number 138 in the world. So for me, age is just a number. Everything is here and in the heart, and that's more or less what I am.
Well, and you have got all sorts of incredible things going on that I want to dive into. But we've got Jason tuning in from Tulsa. We've got Lorenzo turning in from Eugene, Oregon. So, welcome, you two. We've also got a whole bunch of questions that are popping in here. But I want to go back a little bit because I am fascinated. So, I had Luke Tyberski on the show. Do you know Luke real well?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I'm fascinated with how you're leveraging endurance sports into the business community and some of the lessons that you've learned there and carrying that over to the business world. But I want to start back super, super young. So you got into baseball, then motorcycles, then soccer. Like, how did you get into these sports? Was it interest? Was it I mean, because you were high level in not just one, but multiple sports as you continue to navigate your athletic background. So, how did you get into that?
Yeah, so I get fascinated by the sports. Like in the school, I used to be these top athletes, and I always intrigued by that sports. In baseball, I have a cousin that he played baseball, and when I saw it and I went to play, I had this facility um, to do the sport, and I became like a very disciplined in the sport. I was always the first guy to jump in the field and the last one to leave. So I got pretty excited, and I became improving myself a lot. And soccer, because Latinos, that's the number one sport in the globe, and for Latinos are like um, very it's a very popular sport. I also got inspired one of my cousins. My cousin, he was a professional soccer player in around the globe. He played in Argentina, in the Premier League and the second division of Spain. So I was inspired by all these um, s- um, relatives. Uh, so that is how I make it. And baseball is very interesting because my I have one sister, and she used to date this guy. He was a baseball player. I was very young, and he got into the AAA of the Dodgers. So I was always like very related with these people that inspire me. So that is how I jump into this. In motorsports, my father, he was a racer, car racer, and also he does moto. So that's why.
So, you got accepted into multiple colleges. So, I want to hear about this story because I would imagine that this happens more often than what meets the eye, right? Like, you get the opportunity, but you can't cover the other costs. So you end up not having that opportunity or being able to pursue it because you don't have the resources that you need to actually follow through with the opportunity itself. So, like, as a young kid, like, explain that process to me because I'm kind of fascinated with like how you got the opportunity but you didn't have the resources to follow through with it and what that like how that felt. It probably was like awful.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was very awful, and I am a very so I have this entrepreneurial spirit since I was very young, and I am
Yes.
very uh, dynamic from that. So I decided to. I have relatives that they have been living in US for a long time. So every time that we have vacations in Guatemala, I keep studying. So I went to study to US my English. That's how I learned, even though that is not the perfect. And I like my accent. Uh, but
Well, but you carry that sports discipline over to anything else that you're doing.
so I keep studying. So I went to this Jefferson Township Middle School in New Jersey to study English, and this was fascinating because I entered to the basketball team there. I was in the first national first basketball team in that middle school. So I have this ability with the sports since very young. And when that happens to me, I said I want to study in US. And then I always come back to Guatemala. So I said, okay, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna go, and I wrote to all the colleges that I can, and I asked for a tryout. That's how I started. I travel, and I grabbed my uncle's car without having a license to go to the tryouts.
We don't recommend this.
We don't recommend that, but I did it just for the record. It was very close, but I did it, and because I was very into that. And when that happened, and I received the letter, and my mother said, "I cannot, I cannot afford this. Your dad just passed away, and we have these debts, and we cannot do it." So it was very frustrated for me, but I said, "Okay, that's the obstacle, and that's I have to deal with it." So I said, well, I'm gonna study very hard, and I'm gonna make it, and eventually I will become a professional athlete. Since I was very young, uh, I my dream has been to be a professional athlete.
It doesn't matter what sport. It's just a professional athlete.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what. And I have this story with my mother that I used to go to the supermarket with her when I was very young. And I don't know if you have these sprays like deodorants that they said athlete's foot. And I said, Mom, that I want that spray because it's for me.
Well,
So
but you just knew, like you knew in your heart, I'm going to be a professional athlete one
yeah,
day. This may not be my journey. This is not where it ends, though.
yeah. So that's what happened to me. And when I have that obstacle, I say, well, that's it has to happen, and you know I have to deal with it, but I will never quit my dream, and that is one of the main reasons I have created all these businesses, small businesses, based on that experience of how I can help future generations to fund their sports career and higher education with their performance. So basically, that's my mission in life and in the world.
So we've got Lorenzo popping in here. He said experienced that with basketball growing up as well. Very intrigued to hear his journey. I love the passion to excel and succeed. And so, that is a massive problem with, people having talent and having, an opportunity, but not being able to fund the additional resources to get there or whatever it may be. So I love that you're passionate and mission driven around that because it's such a need for sure.
I would love to have Neil back on those days to do something different. But now I have the possibility to help others and doing something very nice for them.
So let's talk about your business career. So when you got back and you had to, go into your corporate career, you obviously got some education, but you went into a corporate career and you spent close to 15 years in a corporate role. So I really want to tap into like what did you learn from sports and your experience with sports that translated into an early start of your career? Maybe not towards the tail end, even though there are amazing things that we carry throughout our entire lives as former athletes. But what about like getting into a business role? Were you able to pretty easily translate from sports into business?
Yeah, I like that question, Amanda, because for me, one of the main things I'm grateful about the sports is the mindset that it has created for me. The mindset that I have developed based on that, it has been opening me a lot of opportunities and possibilities to perform on a higher level, and always like this mindset to go to the corporate executive roles is that mindset that you always want to be better, that you have to be humble to receive correction and suggestions from those that are an experts on different fields, and how you can be excelling each day a little bit in order to be a high performance corporate. I call it high performance corporate athlete because uh,
It is.
yeah, because when you are basically you are competing against yourself. I always say that I will compete with myself first. I'm not like competing with others. Like I really compete with myself and how I can become better each day. And that is why, and that question is very relevant because when you lead teams, and you have this ability to see their strengths and potential, you try to focus on that, and don't try to do it backwards. So I was always try to be very empathetic with the people that I'm surrounded with, in order to see what they are really enjoying to do. Like, you will not assign a task to someone that, if your passion is to do financials, well, so you can help me with financial. But if it is not, you're gonna struggle with the team. So that kind of criteria. And also from a baseball perspective, and I'm like very specific on this, but baseball in general, which was my like base of sports mindset, it's, as a baseball player, you need to anticipate and visualize what you are going to do beforehand.
Yep.
So so having that ability to anticipate certain plays, so if the pitcher is going to throw you, near you, up, down, curve, slider, whatever, how you anticipate on that, and the plays, and how you lead the team. And so that for business, at least for myself, it gave me a lot of strategy behind it, and to anticipate certain moves in the corporate world either. So not only business, but in the corporate world. So that is what I can say about how sports can or influence it in the corporate life. And that is why I think, from my perspective, to help these athletes, it doesn't matter if it will become pro athletes or not, but professional executives, employees, or entrepreneurs, it will be a very good base for them, like, to have this mindset.
Oh, absolutely. So for people, so we have a ton of student athletes that tune into this show, as well as a lot of professional athletes that tune in, and at some point will go on, hopefully, to have a career outside of sports. What are some things that you would recommend that they learn that they may not be exploring in their existing studies?
So I think that, so the question is that they are not. Can you reframe it again, please?
Yeah, so there's a lot of like, so from an education perspective, student athletes will go to school, they'll study maybe finance or business, but there's a lot of things outside of a traditional education program that I think that we carry just as former athletes into the corporate space. So one of the things that I've translated is like discipline and grit and extreme focus. Like I have the ability to just go, and I call it beast mode. That's probably not the best. That's not the best way to term it, but I go complete beast mode when I'm in certain tasks because I switch on that competitive drive, and I also switch on that ability to be extremely focused on small, minute details that then carry into long-term success, right? And so I think something like that translates from sports, but may not be being taught in school that can translate over to business as well.
Well, I will say something that I have learned as an ultra trail runner. And we need to know how we can teach this to younger kids in schools and universities. Is the the process and the ability to adapt to the different changes. Because, and how, so that's one. Adaptability is one, because, for example, I went to Mount Fuji to do 100-mile race in Japan, and it was a snow emergency, and I wasn't prepared for that, like, at all. And I really have to adapt. High in the mountain, all snow. I literally got naked, put my survival blanket, put my clothes, and start breathing inside of me to not get hypothermia. So that mindset is, if I got freeze and I don't know how to do, I will get freeze there and die.
Well, you were
So
forced to adapt. Like that was a
yeah.
scenario where you were forced to adapt.
So how we can create this? I don't say creating, but to these young generation, future generations, so they become more, they know how to adapt pretty quickly. And I think the news, the new environment and growing of technology and everything, it has been creating that in the future generations. But I will say that one. And secondly, it's the the to test, not to test, but to overcome our own limits. Like, do not put limits to yourself.
100%.
like like there is no limit, there is no box. You It's not like do whatever you want. There are certain rules, obviously, but and we need to be also with the proper direction. But like, don't put limits to yourself. Like, just feel it and do it. We became very rational in the world, and I think the answers are very deep in ourselves, more than our, like, logical process. So
Well, and the ability to dream and create. So I spent this weekend just creating, like just thinking through a million different scenarios and what if and how could I do this, and just like using the ability to be creative. Like that does something to push you outside of your limits. You've got to get super creative in business sometimes, especially entrepreneurship. And kind of back to your point, the adaptability piece, like that's a critical thing for people to learn very early on in life so that as they continue to grow their careers or their families or whatever it may be, that you have the ability to be flexible and adapt. And one of the things that I'm learning, and I want to jump into your entrepreneurial journey because you're much more established in that than I am. But one of the most critical things that I've seen is speed, is the importance, the ability to adapt, but also to apply speed and not hold yourself back in certain circumstances. Whereas in corporate, sometimes it's like this standard pace, but in entrepreneurship, in my opinion, a lot of it is about speed and quick decision making.
no, yeah, I agree with you. Like, you need to put a speed when you have to, because there are some other phases that you probably need to. It's like, I do this analogy as a ultra trail runner, because uh you need to, if you are running, like in my case, that Mount Fuji, I did 27 hours, for example, non-stop. So if you don't know how to manage your energy, and you put a lot of speed, and then you lack of energy when you need
Yep.
it, you're gonna have, like, you have to face.
Burnout, like you can't finish the race.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree with you. Like, it needs to speed, but you need to know when to speed it, and also when to slow down a little bit. Doesn't mean to stop or going backward. It just means you need to know where. So I like that. I like that concept of as an entrepreneur, to making those quick decisions, and that is why anticipation is always important, because so you don't have to start doing quick decisions every time, because it requires a lot of energy. So yeah,
It does.
yeah.
And we have a ton of questions coming in. So I want to take a moment before we get into how did you go from corporate into entrepreneurship? Because there are so many people. I recently made this transition, like 2021, the beginning of 2021 is when I went from corporate into entrepreneurship full time. And there's so many people that I talk to that are like, oh my gosh, I would love to go into business ownership and all of these things, but they're terrified to make that decision. And so I want to talk a little bit about how you overcame some of that. But before that, I want to get into some of these questions because there's all sorts of really incredible questions coming in. So let's pull this one up real quick. So Jason asked, what is some of the best advice that you had received throughout your life from a personal and professional standpoint?
Well, my best advice is to always do proper things, but that came from your inner self. You don't need to satisfy other people's expectations, and just trust what you have inside. And when you understand that and you believe in that, you can impact a lot of people. It doesn't matter the money. The money is just a way. It doesn't the end of the game. For me, that's not the thing. So that advice have put me in this path to always become better, and always listening to my inner self, and that's the best advice I have received, and that applies for personal, professional, entrepreneurial. sports, everything.
So here's another one he has. He says, "Do you have a regular morning routine that you adhere to as you start each day? If so, what is it and how long have you been doing this?"
Well, yes, I love to train in the morning, so I'm a 4:30 a.m. guy. Um, 4:30, 5 a.m. And I always hit the trails, hit the gym. That's my routine. And I have been doing this for the last 7 years as an ultra trail runner. Obviously, um, uh, I also have a social life, but I try to to avoid like um, going out late. I have 4 children. All of them are athletes, by the way, and so yeah, that's like my routine. And I try to bath with cold water to feel my inner self and connect. If I don't do this, probably my day will not be the same.
Oh my goodness. And then he had one more, a couple of questions. Here's another one. So he said, "What is," Jason always asks the best questions. He said, "What is the biggest risk that you've taken and what lesson did you learn about yourself when taking that risk?"
That's a good one. I love that because the biggest risk, the like when I became an sports entrepreneur, this was in 2020, January 2020. My last role was a corporate M&A executive for a fertilizer and agrochemical company in LATAM, and we just closed the deal. We bought a company in Panama, agrochemical company. And after closing the deal, I said, um, I'm done. uh, so that decision, having 4 children, I have been receiving a great paycheck every month. I have, as an athlete, I am very goal oriented and results oriented, and all the like the annual bonuses, performance bonus, I have always win them. And I said, well, that's it, and I'm gonna become entrepreneur. And then, so everybody, like my relatives, were like, "Are you crazy?" And I said, "Yes, I'm very crazy." And and then in March, COVID hit. So COVID hit, and I was starting this journey, and it was very risky. It has been very risky since then. Very tough. I will not say it. I am smiling, but I have enjoyed that
Oh,
process.
it's like entrepreneurship. Like a lot of people see like the really like good part of entrepreneurship, but there are some tough times. Like it is not an easy journey. It is not an easy ride. Like there's so much. It's like, and I call it the roller coaster from hell, and I shouldn't probably call that, but it's like up and down and up and down, and like there's really not a lot of stability at times.
Yeah,
Whereas like, but I think that that's why athletes are they're such incredible entrepreneurs because they have this ability. Like it's the same thing with training, it's the same thing with sports. Like some days are better than others, but you just continue to push as much as you can. And like it's
yeah.
not sexy at all. Like
It's not. It's not. It's like yeah. I have had like difficult times, but I think that's part of the process, and that will make my biggest risk that I have take. I thought that I wasn't going to survive to pay for school, for children's school, to all these responsibilities that you take it for granted when you're a corporate. But for me, I was listening my inner self, and that is why it comes to that advice of I cannot be in a place where I'm a bad liar. Like honestly, myself, I'm a bad liar. Like I cannot do that. So I wasn't feeling comfortable, like being there and not being there, because at the end you are burning out every day in something that you don't like. and you just need to face yourself. Nobody will do it for you. Like,
Nope.
and actually, I, in my career, I haven't been fired or anything. Uh, I just make the decisions because I was true with myself, and I also respect other people's businesses.
I mean, it's so critical. So I was the same way. So when I jumped from corporate to entrepreneurship, I was leading a company that was data analytics company, and we were selling software, right? So we were going from services to software based, and my daughter was being homeschooled, and I did not feel good to my core about the work that I was able to produce because I was being pulled in multiple different directions. So yes, it had to do with me wanting to go from corporate to entrepreneurship because I knew at some point in my career I wanted to launch a company, but it every single day I was challenged with I can't give 250% over here if I'm giving half of that over here, which this is where the priority needs to be. And I can't do this other company justice. So I needed to make that decision as well. So I love that you highlight that out.
No, actually, it is like, I don't know if you have heard this phrase about fake it till you make it,
I
and
hate that phrase.
I hate it. Like I said, I cannot fake this. Like, I'm not that kind of guys. I cannot fake it. I just go for it, and I have to face what it is, and that's it.
So Lorenzo's popping in here as well. And he said, prior to competing on a 27-hour fitness life competitive journey, how much rest, meditation, and nutrition goes into the process?
Well, yeah, that's a very good one. So basically, it's a way of life. Like, you cannot just think about one race and one competition. It's an everyday. It's an everyday fueling yourself with proper food that you feel. I have tried all diets that you cannot imagine these last 8 years, no, 10 years. I was paleo for I think 2 years. Then I was keto for 2 years. Then I was vegan, which was I couldn't like. It was really hard. Uh, and then I was vegetarian, and then I just said, my body have tried everything, and now I'm just gonna fool it with the things that my body needs. So I barely do red meat, like, but when I feel it, my body like wants, I give it to it. I give it to him. Um, so it's a daily process, same as hydration, uh, and resting is, I will say, one of the most important things. And mixing being a corporate executive and a extreme pro athlete is pretty difficult, and also a father, and a husband. so so you need to I will not say balance, because balance for me is I don't know, it's not that, it's not balance. You need to sacrifice always something, like
It's
you.
where's your area of focus going to be at what time?
Yeah. So I will say how it works, and during the race is a mental thing. Like, you just
How
need to.
much percentage wise is it more mental than it is physical at that point? Because obviously you have to train your physical body, right? But how much more mental is it than physical at that point?
I will say is a 60% mental and 40% physical. You need to have those conditions. I have done like 20 ultras, like very competitive ultras around the world, and I have DNF two of them with an injury, uh, and I barely quit, but sometimes you're an injured, and you said, okay, you need to be humble and say, you know you want to run the rest of your life, or your ego will kill your running. Like, so that's another lesson, like your ego, how you manage your ego.
So this is interesting. So you've been around some of the most, and endurance athletes are just, I mean, that is a tough, tough sport. You've been around some of the most well conditioned individuals and probably most intense athletes there are around the world. And so, what are some things that you have learned from them that you carry on into your life now that if you may not have gotten exposed to them, that you would not have seen firsthand? So a
Yeah,
lot of people, where I'm going at with this is a lot of people don't have the experience of being around these super, super ultra competitive athletes. So what are some lessons that you've carried over that you can share that you've learned from them that other people can kind of take back into their everyday lives?
like I will say that the lesson that I have learned from them is to be focused on your goal, to visualize how you will perform in the race. Like the visualization process, it's such an amazing process, because you can visualize uh, uh, like everything, and you are manifesting that already. So that was, I will say, that the adaptability concept. Like, even though that you are very well prepared physically, that you have trained like crazy, like a monster or like a beast, as you said,
Beast mode. It's beast mode.
uh, like a beast, and even though that you have done that, like, you never know what's gonna happen. Like, just be ready. Like, anything could happen. Like, anything. So
Love
that is
that.
what I have learned.
I love that. So we've got Pablo popping in here. He said, Charlie, is the family support as important in your entrepreneurial life than in your athlete life? I absolutely love this question. Thank you, Pablo, for submitting that.
Yeah, thank you, Paulo. Saludos. He's from Guatemala, so thank you. I know. No, so yeah, it is very important. I think, um, for me, that is one of the main pillars that have helped me to overcome all this. I think family support is important, very important, and it is important because if they don't support you and you are a true believer of what you want to do, you will do it. you know you just have a little bit easy, that they can push you or propel you to accomplish that. So I say it's extremely important, and I for me, that one has been one of the main um, drivers, and to do everything that I have done, even though that at the beginning, honestly speaking, it's not that easy. Like, the family is always the one who push you back, to, like, honestly speaking, like, at the beginning they are scared, they call you crazy, they say, what are you doing, you have 4 children, don't do that, don't do this, you're gonna die, you're gonna be an ultra, you have 40 years, what are you doing, what do you think you are, you don't have 15 years old, and they push you back. But if, you know at the end, if they are with you, they will support you. So that is when it's easier for us, as with this mindset, to say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it anyway. So if you support me, it's gonna be even better for everybody.
Well, it's helpful. So, like, similar to you, like, some people have been like, what are you doing? You had a super successful career. Now you're going to do this and all of these crazy things. But here's what I've found, and this is a critical component to my entrepreneurial journey and where we've seen some successes, whereas we probably have not seen, would have seen them without this, is I have found other people like you, Charlie, that are just as crazy as we are, that understand the journey, that are willing to support the journey, but are also willing to kind of be a sounding board at times. So it's not even just like the family aspect, it's the community aspect of having this community of individuals that are motivated, driven, focused on their own mission and journeys, but that can be a sounding board at times. And so finding those communities of people, if you are an entrepreneur and you are not in a community of people that are supporting you through this journey, find a group of people that will support you, because in my mind it is absolutely 100% critical.
I completely agree with you. Like, I always say that, when I have always been creating teams, even in the corporate world or entrepreneurial, you need to surround with people that that are better than you, and that, they will propel you and they go in the same direction. It's like being surrounded by those people really inspire you. Like I have found these people, like I'm a very energetic guy, like a very mystical guy. So I really appreciate to receive that energy, and doesn't mean that the other ones that I don't receive that energy are bad people or what, because they are not that. It's just they are in another frequency or space or energy level. And I always try to find these energetic guys that connect with me.
Well, it's different groups of people, right? You have
Yeah.
mind, body, heart, spirit. So you kind of figure out, okay, well, these people are going to support me in this journey. These people are going to support me in these journeys. This is who I bounce ideas off of. This is who I'm learning from. Like it's building out those communities of all of these different incredible people that you can learn from, that you can grow from, but that are also wanting to make substantial impact or wanting to do the things that may or may not be in exact alignment with what you're doing, but that can help drive value along the way.
Yeah.
All right, we have a couple of questions here. We'll take another one. So I don't think we asked this question earlier, but if we did, my apologies. Jason asked, how has your mindset shifted throughout the various seasons of your life? What has changed and what has remained the same?
Well, I think what has changed from a mindset perspective is to be more present on the messages that you receive on a daily basis, like being present and just be very um, to receive those messages with a lot of openness, and start connecting those points with a mature process, like not blaming, not judging, just receiving them, internalizing, and try to. Those are the answers for certain questions that we have. So that mindset has shifted in me when I become like older, and also that also to flow. That as an athlete, we try to like, originally you try to become like faster, like you want to become faster now, and it's not like that. It's a process, and it will go, and just like living at that pace, and you will eventually get it. So that mindset, from my perspective, it has been changing all over this time.
So this happened to me today. Exactly what you're talking about is I went to a meeting with openness, right? I didn't even exactly know what the meeting was going to be about, but I left in tears because it was so unexpected yet so joyful and beautiful that I was like I couldn't have even dreamed that this would have happened, right? With this specific person. But it was one of those things where you're open to the meeting, you take the meeting, you do the work, you go over to what you need to do, and you never know what's going to happen with that. So I see so many people that don't take the meeting or don't take the necessary small steps to get to the big steps. And it's the commitment to the process, the journey, the allowing things to happen, when they're meant to happen, right? In some way, shape, or form. But being open to that is so critical. So I
Yeah.
want to talk about, we're running up on time here, and I do want to get over to the story about you jumping into entrepreneurship, because you alluded to a little bit, but it's not been an easy transition. And for me, actually making that decision of I'm going to go from corporate to going into business ownership or entrepreneurship, that is something that I was challenged with for quite some time. Is like, when do I need to make this? When do I actually do it? Because in my heart, I'm an entrepreneur, right? And I've been in roles that allow me to be entrepreneurial, but I knew at some point I really wanted to jump into that journey myself. Again, I'd done it before. But what was like the moment that you were like, I'm doing it? Like, I am committed to this decision. I'm going to do it. What was it? What caused that with you?
Well, in my case, what caused it is what I was a little bit mentioning before. Like I just realized that I was in that phrase that we hate, you and I hate, about fake it till you make it. And I was like, what I'm doing,
Yep.
like when I realized that, and I said, no, 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 this is not the path I was born to. This is not the legacy I want to leave here. Like in earth, to my children, to future generations. And when you feel that, like very deep, and that you well, in my case, I felt that I was swimming against the how do you say, the corriente, against the the in the river you go against it. and and when you feel like that, like I said, no, 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 this is not the place I want to be. And so that is where I realized, and I said, and actually what you were saying, like, when is the perfect time? So the perfect time is just when you make the decision. Like, it's not like, okay, I will have, I don't know, X amount of dollars in my bank account to do it. No, what happened to me was everything was crossing, as we were saying, like flowing with this, being open, like, so I was very open with the meetings, with the people that I met, with the people that, maybe they just meet once, but they open you the mind in a different perspective, and that was meant to be. So being open, and that's when I realized, I said, no, this is my journey, and I'm gonna build it. And I know that it's gonna be very tough. Like, I know it. And then I understood why I was being an ultra. Like I was right now. I said, okay, being in those conditions, like running nonstop 27, 26, 24 hours, or whatever, being in that conditions helped me right now, like present. I'm facing that moments right now. So yeah, that's more or less.
Entrepreneurship is a long-term run. It is
Yeah,
not a sprint. Like,
yeah, it is
it
not.
is not a sprint. It's really not. And I don't think that it's designed to be that way, right?
Yeah, no, I don't know, and it is not, and that is why it's so. That is why it's so amazing and dynamic, because you just, you have to endure. And I was reading a quote today that entrepreneurs quit not because of cash flow, but because of lack of energy, and I love it, and I love it because, yeah, you just, if you are so convinced of what you are doing because you want to solve a problem for future generation, you will keep pushing forward. Like, you will find a way, you will find a way.
So, talk a little bit about what you're doing now. And we have a couple more questions popping in, so we'll get to those in a second. But so when you jumped into entrepreneurship, what did that look like for you? Because you have multiple companies at this point. It is not just one company. You've got all sorts of exciting things going on. So, what are you working on right now? Or what was like the progression of your entrepreneurial journey?
So first, I started doing an e-commerce platform for innovative sports products around the world, to provide these technologies to our Guatemalan athletes and professional in the sports. They didn't have it, so we created that first. That's a 060 company. It's a small company. It is very lean. I startup, two people, and it's, it is going right now. It's still running. We created that in I created it in 2018. So it has been for a while there. Um, and then after this being an ultra, I decided to build a training performance facility with high technology in Guatemala, so I can provide with these athletes the opportunity to interact with technology that it wasn't in Guatemala. Guatemala is a very small country. uh, so I did that, and we opened in COVID in September 2020. And
That's not a great time to open.
no, it was not a great time, but I said, like I said, I'm all in. Like, if I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail big. Like, I will fail forward. Like, I will say fail, fail, and fail again until I succeed. So I said, I'm gonna do it. Like, this is what I was meant to be. So we open. We have revenues in 2021, which was great. It wasn't what I was expected. At least we were like not very profitable, but break even more or less. So it was great. We have been tuning up that model. So after COVID hit, I decided to say, okay, how I can evolve this company, like, and create an impact. So I decided to transform it into a sports tech company, And because we were scanning the athletes and gathering data from the athletes from an athletic standpoint of view, I said, I'm going to create the Nasdaq for athletes. I have a finance background, and I said, I'm going to create the Nasdaq for athletes. And that is how I'm going to do it. Like how I can help these young athletes to monetize their training data and avoiding them to have three jobs
Yep.
in partial jobs to fund their sports career and even the higher education if they don't become pro. Um, so that is what I'm doing right now, and that's what I'm here in US because for me, I'm sticking to solve the problem that I had when I was 17. Um, and I'm creating this platform with Vertikal. So that is how I am transforming that company. And then I created like a small fund that it was for my own ventures that I have been like leveraging my financial expertise to fund my companies and it is not open like for everybody, but the idea is when I could do an exit or win the lottery, I can help a lot of sports entrepreneurs, and that's my whole my whole vision on this.
So you said something that really resonated with me that I want to share with everybody else as well, because I had the opportunity to be on a Barbara Corcoran, who I'm a super fan of. Like, I love Barbara Corcoran. She was talking about, it was a presentation, and she was talking about that she's great at failure. And that is something that is super critical. And what I see in a lot of very successful entrepreneurs and business owners is that they are super, super, super great at failing. And they don't take that harshly or personally, that they take that as a guided direction to go in a different path, but that they're completely comfortable with failure. And that's something as an entrepreneur, you will fail. Like,
Yeah,
it's a matter of time. If you haven't, you will at some point. And it may not be catastrophic failure, but it may be little failures or little redirections. And that's something that, I think is super critical. And for a lot of people to understand is failure is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a redirection. And you've got to figure out how to accept that, because if you're worried about failing, like, you're going to fail regardless in things. Like, that's just the nature of business entrepreneurship. Like, it's not perfection, right? So being able to fail quick is a super critical component, and something that I've seen in a lot of super successful entrepreneurs is being able to fail fast.
yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think fail is part of it, and the thing is that the human being since see failures as it hits a lot very hard in their ego that they think that is a bad thing, but it's the best thing that you can ever experience because it's what really will propel you to another level. Like being open to the failures are the ones who are. I think I prefer that. Obviously, not prefer, but I'm very open to receive them the failures because it really give you another dynamic for next things to happen.
Totally agree. So we were wrapping up here on time, but Brett is popping in here. So I want to bring up these two questions. So I'm going to ask two of them together. Brett asked, "What is your legacy, and what will your legacy be in 30 years?" So let's wrap up on that one.
Well, that's a good one. I love it, Brett. So my legacy is to right now is overcome your limits, no matter what. Like overcome your limits. Like don't put a box in your head or in your life. Like just overcome that. And in 30 years, it's more or less the same. Like just adding that the legacy will be for me will be how many young athletes I could help in my life to become whatever they want to be through sports. Like if they want to become the best CEOs, if they want to become their sports entrepreneurs, if they want to become presidents of a country, whatever, through sports, if I can have at least more than one, that's gonna be my legacy in this world.
I love that. So we've got Lorenzo popping in saying, appreciate this session, Amanda and Charlie. Thank you. I really appreciate that feedback.
Thank
So
you.
as we're wrapping up here, how can people follow your journey? So I'm going to throw up a couple of banners here because you've got, for anybody that's just tuning in via audio, Charlie's got a website, verticalsportscapital.com. I'll drop it in the comments below. There's also verticalsports.com. So what are some ways that people could follow your journey? And then also, what are ways that people can reach out to you should they be interested in partnerships or exploring from a business perspective, maybe some ways that you guys could work together? Don't give phone numbers, please.
Mm.
But what are the best ways for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is one. I don't know if I say it properly. LinkedIn,
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, and Instagram too. So both of those social medias I am very following.
What's your Instagram handle?
Instagram is Charlie Sarmiento 14, Charlie Sarmiento 14.
Okay.
Number,
Okay, I'll drop it in the comments below.
yeah, like this 14. No, hold on, this 14.
What's the 14 represent?
I want that question. So 14 is the number that he has repeated in my life, all my life. So that was the number that I use in baseball. That was the age that I have when my dad passed away. 14 years later, after my dad passed away, I was 28. I have my first children, and so on. I have been corporate executive for 14 years. So the 14, it's a lot. It represents a lot for me.
Gotcha. So what's the best way for people to reach out to you? Is it just LinkedIn and Instagram and to follow your journey?
Yeah, yes.
Awesome.
For right now, yes. In the future, we will have surprises.
So Pablo's saying some super nice stuff. So I want to show this. We're very proud of you, changing the world one step at a time. Love that. Awesome. Get rid of our boxes. Great advice for everyone. You're a great person helping impact the youth. You will do it. I love that. Thank you so much for joining the show, Charlie. I can't share my appreciation enough for you tuning in, talking, sharing your genius with everybody. I mean, you've got some incredible things going on, and I just love your energy and the way that you're focused on impacting people. So thank you for joining in.
No, thank you, Amanda. I really appreciate being with you, your time, and also to Bikram to introduce us. That was very, very smart.
Absolutely. Vikram, if you're listening, thank you for connecting the two of us together. We're both on missions that have the ability to, we could potentially at some point figure out ways to work together. And I mean, we're both kind of on a similar mission in some nature, and we're both super passionate about other people.
Yeah.
So I love your passion and energy just towards other people. And to everybody that's tuning in, thank you for continuing to listen in and support the show. It is truly my honor to highlight these incredible former athletes, to see how they're leveraging their background in sports and seeing success in business. So this is a weekly conversation. I highlight former athletes from all walks of life, all over the world. And I can't thank you enough for continuing to tune in and support the show. And until next week, we'll see you later.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And as I always say, arigato gozaimasu.